Hey there, everyone. This is Samuel Johnson,
And I'm Haley Dudley.
and welcome back to the Lyoko Retrospectives. And today we're going to be discussing episode 7 of Code Lyoko, Image Problem. And before we start, Haley, what was your exposure to Code Lyoko when you were a kid?
I mean, I remember watching it after school. It was kind of like, oh my gosh, I can't wait for this shit to come up. But I don't remember it all that well. It's one of those that I remember watching. I just don't remember a lot of the show, which is so sad because when we rewatched this, I remembered this episode. I remember watching this episode and thinking, "Oh my gosh, this is so cool." It's just that I've kind of forgotten about it, you know?
Yeah, that's kind of how. Yeah, that's kind of true. Even when I watched the episode, I didn't remember the exact episode until it got further along, and I started remembering certain images from when this episode was on the air. But we'll get to that when we act. But let's first talk about the plot. In this case, the episode actually opens with Yumi and Aelita in Lyoko, as apparently they're in the middle of a mission as once again a tower has been activated. And in this episode, we're introduced to the third section of Lyoko, the ice sector. It's pretty much just this giant Arctic region, like icebergs as far as the eye can see. The digital sea looks like it's pretty much at length, at pretty much at ground level. All you have to do is just like step right off the path, and you would just probably fall right in. But anyway, they go to where the tower that's supposed to be activated, but for some reason the tower doesn't look like it's activated. It's blue and everything, and there are no monsters there. As such, Aelita goes in to check it, but she can't seem to find anything wrong. But while she's inside, she hears Yumi scream, and Jeremy seems to get a devirtualization program getting brought up on his computer, complete with Yumi falling out of the scanner. As such, Jeremy just tells Aelita to stay put while they bring Yumi back to the school, and of course they have to give a cover story to the nurse about what's going on, but either way, when they bring her in, everyone covers for her, but once the nurse has Yumi, she tells them all to go to class. But once they go, Yumi seems to wake up, only she seems to be a bit different, so to speak. Like, apparently she does something to the nurse. I think we missed that part of the episode.
Well, no, it didn't show what she did, but she definitely attacked the nurse in some way to leave the office.
Yeah, because later on the principal calls her in to say that gives her detention for what she did. Either way, she immediately tracks down the group and says that they need to go back to the factory, which they don't really see a need to yet, because they know that Xana's done something because they got a scanner, but at the moment there's no immediate danger, so they don't see a reason to go back yet.
Mm-hmm.
But Yumi seems to keep pressuring it, which the group is a little suspicious on, or at least Jeremy is. However, and things continue to get even weirder as during lunch, when they're all just kind of hanging out, Sissy comes by and tries making a pass at Ulrich as she does. But instead of Yumi getting angry at Sissy or giving her the cold shoulder, she actually says, "Well, why don't you just do it? Go ahead, date her. She's pretty."
Mm-hmm.
Which everyone kind of is a bit weirded out at. As such, later on, Jeremy calls Aelita again, but it turns out that Aelita's been kind of curious as to what's going on, as she can't seem to find anything wrong. So she steps outside to see what the commotion is, and on a nearby structure behind the tower, she sees this weird orange orb that's apparently a new Xana monster called a Guardian. And she knows that wasn't there before, and it's obvious that it's important, as when she gets close, a couple more of Xana's monsters attacks and tries to keep her away. So she knows something's up, and she tries explaining this to Jeremy, while Jeremy does kind of chastise her for leaving the tower because she can't defend herself, this is new information. However, in the middle of the conversation, Yumi enters his room and starts trying to get him to bring her into the tower, and to the point where she actually starts flirting with him in a kind of rather awkward way.
It was the most painfully awkward seduction I have ever seen, but it works so well.
It's actually true, to the point where Jeremy, they actually get a double entendre past the censors, as Jeremy says, like, "I think of a shower, just a cold shower." It was great, but of course, thanks to the power of comedic timing, Ulrich and Odd walk in, and considering that Yumi just is like right up in Jeremy's face, he's blushing, and it looks like she's about to kiss him. Ulrich reacts negatively and storms out. And Odd and Jeremy following after, because Jeremy's trying to explain himself. But Yumi seems to be a bit more satisfied as she's left alone in the room. Later on, Jeremy does manage to get through to Ulrich kind of easily, saying that she thinks that Yumi's been acting strange since she devirtualized, so maybe they need to investigate. And Ulrich decides to give him the benefit of the doubt, so they go back to Jeremy's room. Only all of his equipment is smashed, and they don't know what's going on. And of course, and they realize that Yumi was the last person in the room, so that kind of makes her a prime suspect. Something Ulrich outright denies. He thinks that whatever this is a Xana plot, and it's just there to distract them, which might have been Yumi's intent.
Mm-hmm.
Because she comes in, and that's when she says we need to get to the factory, and they actually decide to play along with this because odds are this might be connected to how Yumi's acting. And sure enough, when they go to the factory and Ulrich, Odd, and Yumi are, sorry about that. Anyway, so they go to the factory and Jeremy gets Odd, Ulrich, and Yumi ready for virtualization. Only before the scanner can close on Yumi, she stops it and walks out while Ulrich and Odd go into Lyoko and meet up with Aelita. And it turns out that and the thing is, Aelita's still been trying to get closer to the Guardian and has been doing her best to try and avoid the monsters, even kind of doing some stealth work. And we soon learn why Yumi's been acting weird, as when Aelita got close, she managed to see what the Guardian's been protecting. It turns out that when Yumi was attacked earlier, she was captured. That the Yumi and it turns out the whole time she's been in Lyoko and the Guardian's holding her. The Yumi that they're seeing is a Xana projection, which, yeah, you kind of guessed too, because earlier in the episode, the principal when the principal called Yumi for her attacking the nurse, when he tried calling her parents, she assaulted him and her forehead briefly pulsed with the Xana symbol. So yeah, you kind of figured that something was up. Either she was possessed or doppelganger.
Something.
Yeah. So either way, they realize that. Xana is having some plot, and it turns out that what her plan was that Yumi wanted to go back to the factory so she could pretty much unplug the scanners, pretty much just pull out all the wires and make them unusable. And Jeremy, of course, did actually know that she had some plot because after he scanned in Ulrich and Odd, he went to go investigate himself. Something that turned out to be a bad decision, as fake Yumi, or Xana Yumi, whatever, immediately plays dumb, acts like that she was in a trance before knocking him out, and tries to unplug everything. As such, after they take care of the monster surrounding the Guardian, they manage to trick the Guardian, but with Aelita creating a false image of Yumi, making the Guardian think it got the wrong one, and thus letting Yumi go, which is a little weird.
Yeah, I mean, it was kind of plot holy, but meh. We'll leave it.
Small potatoes.
Uh-huh.
So when Yumi's exposed, when she wants to know what the heck's going on, and they do explain the situation to her that Xana made a copy of her and sent it out in the real world. She's been trapped in Lyoko. As such, Yumi is smart enough to realize that whatever's going on, they need to get that. If this Yumi is still in the factory, then someone needs to be in the factory to keep an eye on it, because Jeremy's the only one there and it could easily be causing trouble. As such, Yumi elects to be the one that goes out, and so they devirtualize her and send her back there just as she's trying to unplug another scanner.
Mm-hmm.
As such, Yumi confronts her double, and we get this kind of over this.
It was a very dramatic fight. It was a lot of but. Yeah.
Yeah, it wasn't that. Admittedly, I don't think it didn't work that well.
I thought it was entertaining, though. I think it was well drawn, but it was very dramatic for a short fight.
It was kind of over the top, especially since you barely saw anyone hit anyone. You just saw, you knew that Xana Yumi hit real Yumi, and you saw her reaction, but otherwise, it was just.
It was mostly reaction shots.
Like that sort of thing. Either way, though, Jeremy does manage to get up, and he joins the battle. But in the meantime, the group is attacked by monsters, and so they manage to take them out. And well, just as it looks like the Xana Yumi is about to drop Jeremy down a hole into the sewer, that's when Aelita deactivates the tower, and which I'm guessing that causes the fake Yumi to disappear. But at that point, either she threw him or he was over a manhole.
Yeah.
As such, he fell through, but thankfully they turned back time, and thus he's saved. As such, the episode ends with them just kind of talking about the events, and one good thing that came out of this whole thing is that since Xana was able to send out a fake Yumi into the real world, this could mean that this could help them along with their research for devirtualizing Aelita. So there are so that is a plus on how things could go. So overall, what do you think of the episode?
I enjoyed it. I really enjoyed it. I mean, it was such a like throwback watching Code Lyoko. Honestly, oh my gosh, I haven't seen the show in forever. But I let's not pretend like this idea of the bad guy of whatever show you're watching or whatever you're into sending someone as a spy, pretending to be one of the main characters. That's not a new concept, but I feel like in this they added a little bit more because it was like, well, yeah, he did do that, but you know what? We learned more about materialization. We got one step closer to our end goal here. And so it wasn't just a basic, sabotage episode. It was also a learning. It built to the story, and I felt like that was important.
Yeah, stuff like that is what I actually find interesting, and that's something that they've usually that's been doing throughout the episodes. Like certain episodes show that Sissy's character is more than just the token bully, as there is we have seen certain layers to her that thanks to the Back to the Future, thanks to the Return to the Past thing from her perspective, never happened. But by the same token, these last two episodes have actually kind of furthered the plot in some way. Like the last episode involved them actually finally creating the devirtualization program that they only lost because they had to use it on Yumi to free her. And in this case, we have more of that as we have Xana doing a bit of subterfuge by trying to create a fake Yumi to pretty much pull the plug on everything. Which not only, but is actually kind of cool, which I find in a way interesting because this also kind of expands on what happened in the last episode. I mentioned, remember last week when last week I discussed how Xana seemed to be going on in the offensive now that they had seemed to be going on the offensive. And I thought that the timing for him going on this was kind of a little too convenient for when they finally had a devirtualization program. So I thought it made so. I thought that this was maybe Xana's attempt of trying to stop them, pretty much sink the ship and ensure that they can't get Aelita back. And this kind of feels like a more subtler version of that. Like he's not going for an all-out offensive attack this time, and I think that's kind of smarter because I think it's a bad idea. I think it's a bad idea to destroy the supercomputer at all if Xana's still in it. But by that same token, though, it is trying to create a way of trying to get close to the group by using a face they know, by getting Yumi. And by creating a fake Yumi who can infiltrate, who can blend in with them, and then when they're defenseless, in this case when everyone's in Lyoko and Jeremy's on the computer, she can just unplug the scanners, thus ensuring that they can't get Aelita back out.
I mean, I definitely I mentioned this to you earlier, and I definitely agree with what you're saying because it seemed like there was a definite end goal here, and it was there was definite plan and sequence of events, and there was a definite goal that Xana is working to.
Yeah.
And I feel like that definitely helps carry it because it's less of just random destruction and more of well, we know that he knows that I know I want this to happen and I know that I don't want to hurt the computer. I know I don't want to do certain things. So I feel like it creates a better story.
Yeah. And again, that's kind of how that is what I think was actually pretty interesting. And again, it does kind of play off of what happened last episode because they lost the program. They lost the program because they had to use it on Yumi because she fell into the virtual sea. In fact, hold on a second. I want to actually mention this because it actually kind of is something. It actually does play into everything because when I shared this on Twitter, Nathan Blair, whose ID is at MDOffBlair001, actually called last week's episode Part 1 of Pick on Yumi Week, and I can kind of see that with this episode too, as Yumi's kind of made a token, is kind of just is immediately captured and spends most of the episode detained while her double awkwardly walks around.
I mean, I understand why you would say that and why you kind of think it would be a pick on Yumi week, but I mean, I will disagree respectfully just because when they do, free her from the Guardian, which the only reason the Guardian got her because it was a jump shot. They sneak attack that. It wasn't she walked into something and was overpowered. It was they planned how they were going to capture her. And then as soon as she was, released, she was the one who fought off Xana until everyone else could take care of the tower and take care of everything that needed to be done in Lyoko in order to get everything to be back okay in the real world. And so I feel like she she was a key character. She was no slouch. She wasn't just, a background poor me damsel in distress. It was more of like, listen guys, I want my vengeance. And so she got her chance to,
Yeah.
prove herself. Like,
Yeah.
she straight up said, well, I should be the one to go back. I don't know how many hit points I have left. And everyone's like, what? And she goes, well, you got a sword, don't you?
Yeah, because they actually were figuring, because they were wondering how could they devirtualize her, and she says, "You're armed, right?" So yeah, it's implied that they pretty much attacked her.
I feel like that just establishes her as
She-
solid. Just
she is
BA
like
territory.
that is kind of how she is throughout the series. She's a tough girl. She can take care of herself, and she has done a lot of stuff. And I'm part of the reason I'm kind of mentioning this is because I'm guessing that for the next few episodes, because last week she fell into the virtual sea, and I'm guessing, and from what they said, falling in the virtual sea means you're pretty much stuck in Lyoko. So and now in this week she gets captured for most of the episode while a double goes around taking her place. So it might end up becoming some. So maybe for the next few episodes there might be other stuff like that. But I'm not. But that said, that she isn't incompetent either. She's she fell in the virtual sea taking out a monster, and like you said, she got. It was a sneak attack, and when she was freed, she wanted to get back out there and teach her doppelganger who's boss.
I mean, I feel like that all kind of like that makes Yumi for me. Like, as far as her character goes, that really makes it for me, because she's not the damsel in distress. She's not the typical, because most shows they have one character who's like. It's the damsel in distress, the one who always needs to be rescued type of character. And while it might be Yumi's turn, she definitely doesn't need anyone to fight her battles. Like,
That's
yeah,
true.
you need she might need your help, but she to get to where she can, do her stuff, but she doesn't need other people taking care of her,
Yeah, I think typically though for Code Lyoko, the damsel in distress would be Aelita, but that's mostly because she doesn't have many offensive abilities.
Yeah, and I feel like that's mostly because, like you said, no offensive abilities, but I feel like in her group she would be more. She's the key. She's not the.
To be true, yeah, she is the key.
She's not the warrior,
Yeah. Then she is still integral. That's why the group has to go into Lyoko. If she tried just making a straight run to the tower, she'd probably get shot at.
But it's also kind of seen that they even Aelita understands. Look, I'm not the most powerful. I need the other people to help, and she kind of plans accordingly. And you can even see as she's running from those laser crabs.
Yeah, she does have initiative. Even even earlier episodes have shown that, because she's not an offensive fighter. In fact, she's not a fighter at all, but it does take initiative. She is still a good tracker. She just knows what she can and can't do. And in this case, she can affect the environment of Lyoko. It's everyone else that has everyone else that has the fancy smashy superpowers. She doesn't have anything yet. So yeah, it doesn't. So yeah, she while she is kind of technically in that role, she's not. But it's not,
more of, this is where you're at right now as far as level goes. Yeah. You don't need to it's not, this is your character. This is your level.
Yeah.
So
yeah, I think another thing I liked about the episode was I liked it, but it also kind of hints at something that I kind of want to talk about that's kind of happened more in season 2. The other Yumi, you definitely do feel uneasy with her around. I think, that something's up with her, but they don't make it you don't know for certain that this is the real Yumi, that this is a fake Yumi at first, because the events do seem to line up, but there are still enough questions up in the air so that there is suspicion. Like Jeremy said, that she devirtualized with full life points, so that doesn't make a lot of sense. And of course, thus the way she acts when she wakes up, how off she is, that something is up. That Xana did something to her, and in a way, it also kind of feels awkward. In a way, it kind of feels awkward, and in a way, this might be reflective of Xana being a computer. But at the same time, and this is kind of a minor flaw in the episode, it might not even be a flaw at all. It might just be nitpicking here, so sorry in advance. I think this kind of also works towards trying to give Xana more of a personality, because this Yumi did kind of briefly go into inherently evil. Like other times, she felt emotionless and very straightforward. She attacked a nurse, went off screen, but still. And then when her plan was threatened by the principal calling her the real Yumi's parents, she grabbed the phone right before she grabbed the phone before he could. She grabbed his hand just to grab the phone, and then yanked it out of his hand and knocked him out with it.
Mm-hmm.
And it was a bit. But other times she also seems to be enjoying what she's doing too. So in a way, you could easily say that this might be Xana also working through her, because that seems to be like Xana's modus operandi. He's in Lyoko, but he can extend his reach to the real world, and this Phantom Yumi, I guess, could kind of be that. And I think it's also, but I think, and I'm sorry, my point of the rant is this. I feel like while it's a good premise, and it is kind of interesting seeing this Yumi work with everyone, it's also a step towards something that I think that Xana's probably been actually good at the rest of the series, as the voiceless villain. Xana, while obviously being conscious and having some kind of personality with his desire to want to take over the world, in this case, when since you never actually see Xana beyond an image on a screen or just the image in somewhere else, you never know what his personality is like. And I think that's a good way of building hype and fear. The less you know about something, like the less you know about something, the more you fear it. That's why the Joker has so many origin stories. The more you don't understand about it, the less you can sympathize with it, and the more afraid you are of it. And that's kind of a case with Xana being the voiceless. In this case, though, you start giving Xana a voice. And to be fair, of what we see of Yumi, you do see that Xana is malicious and dark, and definitely doesn't seem to understand anything. Because Phantom Yumi was kind of straightforward in her goals.
Mm-hmm.
She wanted to go to the factory, and the only reason she tolerated the group when they were doing anything else is because she kind of needed them. When she sowed dissent between them when she tried flirting with Jeremy, as they left, she was smiling, because while it may not be part of her end goal, it's still, these are people that have gotten on Xana's case all the time. And so now to have them actually kind of having a bit of infighting might be amusing. So
Mm-hmm.
so you can kind of I think that would kind of make sense. But at the same, I think the only time that she ever kind of delved into the more traditional hokey villain stuff was when she actually laughed during the climax. So to be fair, it was a very awkward laugh.
Mm-hmm. I mean, I agree with you. I think that laugh was very awkward and ill-placed.
Yeah.
But I would say that, in my opinion, I appreciated how they played the Xana Loki, or not Xana Loki. Wow, Xana Yumi. Like it was. She didn't speak until it became a necessity to further her goal.
Yeah.
And it was like she would forget, I have to emote with these people in order to get them to help me, and then she would remember and remind herself, type of thing. It was kind of obvious, like there was a disconnect from her emotional state to what she was showing to the world. And so I feel like that kind of shows the computer aspect of Xana. That shows it's a computer program that doesn't quite understand how interpersonal relationships affect how a person feels and affect how you would speak to one person. Like how she addressed Sissy with Auric there and everything. She didn't even notice anything was wrong. It was just speaking.
Yeah, again. Like I said, this is probably just me nitpicking, because I do think that that Xana Yumi did work well, because were unnerved. She was acting off, and like you said, it was sort of machine and militaristic. The only time that we ever saw it's like Xana was learning how to emote as the episode went on, and that seemed to be kind of the case. Because spoilers for later, like we later see Xana learn, because Xana does kind of pull similar tricks like this in season 2. And those tricks can emote more. They actually do have tones and voices to them, and that was mostly just what I was kind of getting at, because that's kind of a precursor to that. But this one definitely does feel like someone that's trying to understand the human animal, but it only knows the bare minimum, which makes sense. Xana's an AI, a malicious AI that likes to mess with people, but still an AI.
I feel like one of the reasons why that, like, correct me if I'm wrong, but I feel like one of the reasons why you have the disconnect, particularly at the end with the emoting from the AI, is that it's the laugh. It was that laugh and that fight scene. It was like all of a sudden, rather than the cool calculating computer that was already established with the smugness of a human who just got their goal,
Yeah.
And that was the kind of moment that was in when she, like, right before Yumi destroyed the computers and stuff in Jeremy's room. It was that, like, I have an opportunity. It was the subtle, just
That I think actually worked too, because again, odds are, because again, Xana gets better at it later on in the second season.
mm-hmm.
But in this case, while Xana is only tries to, when Xana Yumi only emotes when she needs to. At the same time, though, this is like one of those moments that even if Xana is Xana, this is this is one of those times where suddenly, even if Xana is unaware of it, he's emoting. Like, because Xana Yumi smiles when they're gone and smiles at the descent as well as the destruction. So in a way, it's like that's the only emotion that Xana can manifest. In a way, it's like Schadenfreude.
Well, I mean, it's definitely like if a sentient being gets their end goal, whatever it may be. If you wanted a sandwich and someone sets a sandwich in front of you, like you get a little bit happy about it.
Yeah.
And so it was that to me was like the first step in the original emotion from Xana.
Yeah, yeah. Again, I think that's it. Yeah.
But I can agree with you that like what made it disconnect and kind of like in this like you said might be nitpicky, but like the laugh at the end where she's standing there with Jeremy overhead, about to throw him in, that was a little showboaty. It was a little cheesy. It didn't really fit with what was already the established character mode. It was more of a let's make sure people know this is a villain.
Yeah.
If she would have been just calm, cool, confident, just even like slight smile as she's about to throw Jeremy it down, that would have hit much harder to me. That would have been like, oh my gosh.
Yeah, because again, later on when in season 2 when Xana does similar tricks to this, they emote more too. That's definitely evil, but it feels more like it's more. They do emote and they do seem to have some stuff, and they do more than Xana Yumi did, which again makes sense. Xana's an AI, doesn't understand the human animal beyond making you suffer, but at the same time, I feel like but again, I feel like it worked better when the genuine emotion was that sense of Schadenfreude when she started storing dissent in the group. That actually I think makes sense because Xana does seem to Xana is smart and definitely in the early episodes while that was just random destruction, Xana does want to kill people. They have made that perfectly clear. Xana took over a bus with the intent of ramming it into a factory. He stored up electricity to try and cause a nuclear meltdown. He even tried causing an ecological disaster by taking over the government computer programs. Still don't know how that works, but whatever. But anyway, but still, it makes sense. Xana wants that. And the closest things we've seen to emotion are, I'm guessing, like last episode when Xana just went for a full-on attack against the factory, because I still think that could have been a symptom of worry, because that they were getting closer, and that sense of Schadenfreude. Stuff like that I think would make sense, and in a way it makes sense for a machine that's cold and calculating. But at the same time, this machine does still have something akin to emotion, otherwise why would it want to destroy people in these certain ways? So it makes sense why it would have the Schadenfreude, but just not the evil laugh. And as the seasons go on, and as the series goes on, I feel like that Xana sort of does lose that a little when he does start when he gets new tricks up his sleeves. Not enough to make him a little bit of a threat, just enough to take away the voiceless nature. And again, still an intimidating villain. It's just I feel he's more intimidating when he is just a symbol on a screen.
Well, I mean, a faceless enemy is always more intimidating because you don't know how they could show up.
Exactly. You don't know them, and thus you're more afraid of them.
But I do feel like, an AI that is learning the human emotions, but through their own means. And I would argue that, Xana discovering, that happiness, smugness through, the breaking up the group, that I feel like, because that, little smirk there seemed like a genuine ha moment. That was far more potent than, the ending with the actual maniacal laughter. Because, yes, it was actually
Yeah.
That felt more like a cheesy villain. We want to make sure everyone knows that this is a cheesy villain moment rather than a actual, this is a bad guy moment, you know?
Yeah, again, my mostly complaints are just kind of what I think what could come of it, but in the beginning it did still kind of work as she still felt distant. And again, And again, I think, and I guess you could probably say that even later on, most of the emotions that Xana manifests, quote unquote, are mostly in the means of manipulation, and even then, it's still taking joy in the suffering of others, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
Because I think I remember one episode, I'm not going to say what it is, where he lured Aelita into a trap, where he lured Aelita into a trap by having someone play the victim, and then when Aelita got close, he dropped the act and was just and acted a bit smug.
Mm-hmm.
And again, I'm not going to reveal too many spoilers here because that's like 3 seasons off. But for now, but again, yeah, I feel like it worked better in the beginning. But I'm just saying that I feel like Xana. I'm just saying personally, not bad. I like Xana as the voiceless, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
I guess and I suppose another nitpick. You mentioned this earlier. The kids are kind of mature because Ulrich really kind of. On the one hand, I do like that Ulrich does believe that Jeremy that while he is angry at Jeremy when Jeremy says that nothing's going on, he thinks that something's up with Yumi. He does at least give him the benefit of the doubt, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't know. I feel like he would still be at least a little bit sour while still trying to give him the benefit of the doubt. But don't quote me on that.
Well, I mean, I feel like it's more genuine that he was like, okay, maybe you're right. Because, I mean, it was pretty well early established. There's something up with Yumi when she, told Sissy, date him, and told Auric, ask her out. It would make her weak. Like, that, to me, like, that immediately would make my dander go in a rough, like, what the hell?
I actually
But,
I'm sorry to interrupt you there. In a way, I kind of like that because that is somewhat computer logic. Because if Xana doesn't understand the human, because if Xana only knows like the bare minimum about human interaction, you probably think she's pretty, she likes you, why not ask her?
mm-hmm.
So that kind of makes sense. Kind of, I don't know. It's just like computer logic. Continue.
And since those two would already have, like, a baseline established relationship,
yeah,
it's kind of like, you could see it in his face. He was like, ah.
The fuck.
And so I feel like there was already created that element of something might not be right. And so when Jeremy came to him and was like, dude, you don't understand. It's not what you think. It was easier to believe because there was already that established something isn't quite right.
Yeah.
But I personally like how well they handle it and how mature they are because it makes it more real. It's less of like, how dare you, and more of like, okay, you might be right, type of thing. And that
I understand that. I understand that. It's just that when you have kids in shows, like I feel like that they should be acting more like kids, and they do still act like kids. We got Odd. He's the goofball.
But they're teenagers. They are.
Okay, I will give you that. Okay, I'll give you that one. I'll give you that one. It's just that it felt a little too quick for me. That's all.
I understand because it really was. He just closed his eyes. Fine, and he seemed perfectly okay with it.
Yeah, like I feel like that even if he still gave him the benefit of the doubt, there'd still be something there.
Mm-hmm.
Because that's just what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying. I feel like I feel like he forgave him too quickly. Is what I'm saying. So
I mean, yeah, I would agree, but at the same time, it's a 25-minute episode, and
I get
they
that.
accomplished a lot very fluidly and very nicely in those 25 minutes, and that's why I think the only complaints that me and you either can have really are nitpicky things, because they really did manage to make a very complete storyline flow very nicely all together and progress the story and add new information to it.
Yeah, well, this was not filler, and it was actually pretty good. And on the whole, I do think this episode is good because I like because it was nice seeing, because it kind of does expand on because it does kind of extend what happened in the last episode, because they got close to devirtualizing Aelita, so this feels like an extension of what Xana did in that last episode, except this time not threatening the computer.
Mm-hmm.
It is kind of nice seeing it. And while I do kind of have like a minor problem with the idea of this taking away the faceless nature of Xana, at the same time, Yumi, when she wasn't being overly hammy, or Phantom Yumi anyway, did still come across like there was something wrong and like she was distant, that she wasn't human. It was slightly unnerving. They do, and it is kind of nice seeing how the plot develops and learning the truth about this Yumi, that there is a fox in the hen house, so to speak.
Mm-hmm.
Seeing Yumi just getting more and more cautious and angry and getting more desperate, saying, we need to go to the factory. I want to go back to the factory.
Mm-hmm.
And the only reason they finally consent is when she smashes the computers. So it really does feel, so I like that. And again, at the end of the episode, it does give some minor progression to the plot.
Mm-hmm.
And so, yeah, on the whole, I did still like the episode. I do have some minor problems, but on the whole, I liked it. It was nice.
I agree. I definitely was a great episode. It was a new, it was a very refreshing take on just the infiltrator type of motif, and I appreciate that because that's something that can go old really fast, but they definitely did it very new and very fun.
Yeah, and also again, like we kind of talked to death there.
Mm-hmm.
It also worked because again, it definitely felt like it was an AI just trying to understand human interactivity. So yeah,
which was, I mean, that kind of makes it though too, because it's
yes.
I won't go into it again because then we'll open up another can of worms. And
So anyway, but that's pretty much all we have to say, everyone. Thank you for watching. I'm Samuel Johnson.
I'm Haley Dudley.
And I'll see you next week. Take care.